Hello, book sponges. It's James here with the promised book review that I promised in my last video for Noumenon by Marina J. Lostetter. This is a debut novel, which means it should get some punches pulled for it. So we sort of will. I don't know where I'm going with this. So basically, let's talk about Noumenon. It's a new release, it's a debut novel, and that's always exciting. It's always nice to see new people coming out of the woodwork and finding good things that you like. So what's this book about? I will read the small words on the back of the book to tell you very briefly what it's about. 2088. Earth is ready to explore beyond its solar system. But is it prepared for what it might find? That's a terrible summation of what the book is about. There's a much more in-depth one on the inside flap, but I'm not going to read that because who wants to read? No, so the book here, Noumenon, is about a guy called Reggie, who is a newly minted doctor of science. I don't know which science, but science! So he's a doctor, and he has decided that he's going to pitch an idea to launch a long-distance convoy to this star that is like an irregular star. It produces like irregular radiation or something, or he like observes it and he sees that it's crusty or something. I'm not very good at summaries, but yeah, so he observes this weird star and he goes, well, we want to go out there. I want to go out there and poke it. So he decides that he's going to do that, but this star is like millions, if not billions, of light years away. So obviously he can't get there in his lifetime. So the plan is formed to get a crew of the most genius scientists ever. They do all these genetic tests to find who's going to be like the best people to send on this sort of voyage, and they clone them all. They clone them all, and then they decide we'll keep cloning them all the way to this star, which is a fantastic premise for a book. Like it really does tackle that nature nurture thing head on. We see these clones as they go through space over the generations and how the different variants end up in life. Because the idea, of course, is that they would be essentially the same people that left, but that does not end up being the case. So let's talk about the good parts of this book. I'm going to try and keep the book framed on this side of my face for consistency, but I'm going to sort of switch hands because it's heavy. So let's talk about some of the good things. The characters are fantastically well written. It's very difficult. I would say that the author bit off a lot, but fortunately not more than she could chew when she decided to make her debut novel about how the same character is reborn over and over again in different ways, and we get to see it play out. But the characters are really well written. Like each variation has its own distinct voice, even though it's essentially the same person. It's really, really well done. The characters are very believable people. Nothing seemed forced. None of the decisions that people made seemed really outrageous or anything. Like nobody seemed inhuman, like they were a character in a book. They all seemed like genuine people that you could meet, which was fantastic. That leads on to me saying this book is not plot driven. If you like the plot driven story, this isn't for you really, because the beginning, like the overall arc of the book is not all that exciting. It is a travel book where they travel from point A to B and then from B back to A. So if you're looking for like resolution to all these big mysteries that it sets up in the beginning, you're going to be disappointed. But what the book does brilliantly, because it's told in instead of one flowing narrative, it's told in these vignettes where we follow one clone, and then the next in the next chapter it'll be 30 or 40 50 years later, but sometimes 100 years later, and it's following a different group of the same characters almost. But they're all, what's great about it is they're all really self-contained stories. So those parts of it, those individual stories are really well done. They each chapter is its own story. Like essentially, it's a short story collection, but it's not. It's a novel, which is a weird thing to try and describe. But it's basically it's told in vignettes essentially. So I'm going to move it to the other side of my face now. Look at me being all fucking lying in videos. So basically, yeah, you follow all these clones. They go along. The story is incredibly fun because the main meat of the book is not so much about what happens like on the journey. It's not like, oh no, the fucking engine's broke. Oh shit! Like it's not all about that. It's more about the society that develops. Like at the start, it's all very much controlled by the government and by the you know, like the scientific group that started the expedition, and then almost straight away things start going wrong and they realize like, well, shit, we're like in the fucking middle of space. We've not got frequent contact with Earth, so no one can really tell us what to do, so we have to sort of govern ourselves. And it's about this, like the birth of a new nation almost, that's like this whole new society that's built around this ship. And what's fucking really fascinating is the further you get in the book, like you'll start seeing that characters start talking a different way than they would have at the start. You know, they don't reference Earth history, they reference ship history, because that's all they've ever known. Like some of these characters, like they're 200 years removed from Earth and they've never seen the place, and it's all of these really fascinating ideas of how a new society develops out of an old one. It's really exciting, like, and in-depth stuff to read about. Let's see here, what else do I have under good? The writing, yes, how could I forget that? The writing is what I would describe as consistently excellent and occasionally absolutely exceptional. For the most part, you know, the narrative is told really well, the characters are well written, all the imagery is really great, all of that good stuff. And then occasionally you get lines like, human screaming was worse than any siren, and there were so many gone to scream for. Like, fuck, like that's a deep line. Like, holy shit, like that's, like, I could imagine that being said by a master politician about a real world tragedy. I guess that's good praise. Let's talk about some of the negatives that I had, because there were a couple, not too many. The main character that does have a through line throughout the whole story and stays as the same character is called ICC, which is an AI which controls the like communications for the fleet, like it's a convoy of ships. This AI exists from the start and is like the only character that lives forever because it's a computer, right? So the arc that Marina wanted the character like ICC to go down was like the AI that starts more robotic and becomes more human, and it pulls that off towards the end, but then I think it's lacking more towards the beginning, because I think Marina is so good at writing human characters that ICC was a little bit too human at the start, not quite robotic enough to really have that impact of that development shine through fully for me. The overall book, as I said earlier, isn't that exciting. Like the grand mystery, like, oh, what's going on with the star? Like, I don't really care, you know. It's not that big a deal. It's not made that big a deal of in the book. But yeah, and then like that ties in sort of to the ending, where I think if this was going to be a standalone book, which I thought it was when I picked it up, I think the ending would have been fine, but a little lacking. It's very open-ended, the ending of this book, and I was thinking, well, yeah, it's really open-ended. I had my interpretation of what that meant for it being open-ended, but then I found out that it's gonna have a sequel that comes out next year, so I guess it wasn't open-ended, it was just a cliffhanger. I don't know how to feel about that. Obviously, if you've seen some of my other videos, you might know I'm not a massive fan of first books trying to bait you for a sequel, because it's not successful, mate? What if it's shit? Fortunately, it wasn't shit. It was really fucking good, and now I'm actually excited to see the sequel. Not to find out what is going on with the mystery star. I want to see how this society develops and like how it interacts with like Earth now and all this shit. Like it's like from a sociological perspective, it's fascinating. Like, I think this is the first book that I've read that is a sci-fi that is not about like hard science but social science. That's really the only way I can describe it. Really good. Can't recommend it enough. 4 out of 5 stars. Guys, you lost a star, Marina, for pacing problems, because even though each individual story segment was really well paced, the overall story wasn't, because a lot of the stories, like they varied in length and stuff, and then sometimes it seemed like you were putting more focus on some events than others, and it sort of dragged it down. And then like all the stuff with the star was kind of rushed. Like some bits were rushed because the stories were shorter, but those stories were well paced. Like I said, it's really hard to review a book like this. Like, let's give it an example. Like, there's a story like halfway through that's really, really short, but it's really, really well done as an individual story segment. But those overall events therefore seem rushed in the grander scheme of things because there's not much time given to them. And then there's another story that's also really, really well paced, but it's super long. You know, that's kind of what I mean. Difficult to explain. So that's Noumenon by Marina J. Lostetter. I'm going to put the book down now because my arm hurts. Yeah? Okay, I'm going to put it down. So, I do have one more thing to talk to you about today. Not just a review. Look at me doing 2 in 1 videos. I'm so fucking generous. Right, my other thing I want to talk about is you will see now in the description of this video that I have a blog. I've started Plots and Points, the blog. I did start it last August and I didn't keep up with it, but now I am, because there's a reason for it. I cannot do as many videos as I want to do at the length that I want to do them because my internet is shit now, basically, and uploading them would not only be unfair on the people I live with because it hogs all the bandwidth, but it would be just impractical because I'd literally have to fucking basically cripple the internet every day just to upload things. And even a video of this length is probably going to take about 7 hours to upload. I'm not even exaggerating. So to do like a 20-minute video or something would just be unfeasible. Like, it'd be like a whole day almost, probably. So that's not happening anymore. But the good news is, visit down on plotsandpoints.wordpress.com, link in the description below, and you will see that I have written some articles there, and I'm going to like do my responses to some discussion stuff there, and I'm going to do longer, more wordy, structured reviews of books as well. So I've got some duplicated content. I'm a fucking hack. But no, go check that out, because I think it'd be really good if you want to like see more of my opinions and analyses of things. I'm going to save those sorts of things for the blog, just because I really can't upload them in video format anymore. This channel is going to be mostly for book reviews and tags and other fun little bits that I think would work better as a video format, but long form essays and things, gonna save them for long form essay format on the blog. So thank you for watching this video. Go and read Noumenon by Marina J. Lostetter, or if you hate sci-fi, then don't bother. But if you do, go and read it, it's fucking good. And I will see you with the next video, whatever that will be. See you later.